You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is Locked On Jazz, Facebook Live Thursday edition. Rodney Hood, are we asking too much? Jazz contract structure by Dennis Lindsay is simply brilliant. Beating bad teams, is that enough to win? The front office structure and the world of free agency for the NBA. Lots of different things to discuss and taking your questions on a Facebook Live edition of Locked On Jazz. Bum 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 bum. Pow. How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are moving our Facebook Lives over to the Locked On Podcast Network page because we believe, and I'm kind of putting the cart way ahead of the horse here, but the Locked On Podcast Network, I think a lot of you will think this is really cool, are going to try to build Thursday live shows so that we just come one after another at this location with live Thursday edition shows for you with all of our NBA shows, all of our NFL shows. It's a great time now with NFL training camp starting, and we're rebuilding much of the Locked On Podcast Network there, as well as getting your NBA experts. So you'll be able to catch not only this show, but every show kind of to catch up what's going on Thursdays on the Locked On Podcast Network page. So please like that page and then be a part of it. So thank you very much. Today's show is brought to you by Shamrock Auto Group. They often sponsor our Thursday live edition, and we certainly appreciate them doing that today on the program. Good to have them aboard. As well as SeatGeek with the promo code LONBA. You get $20 back on your first purchase. Please submit your questions. I'll get to those in a little bit. Thank you very much for tuning in. Oh, I can now put a mask to give myself a fun look if I tap, because Facebook is trying to imitate everything Snapchat does. So I can actually do this now. I tap the wand, and then I can make myself look silly, I guess. Oh, I'm now orange. Let's go back to no filter. Let's go back to no filter. That wasn't such a good idea. I didn't like being orange. All right, anyway, let's get to it. Top thing on the show today is FanRag Sports is doing a top 100 players in the NBA right now. I love these lists. I don't like the individual lists. What I like is at the end of the year when everybody has suddenly done one, and so you're able to combine all of them in one spot and put them there, and then get a kind of a collection, a wisdom of crowds. But I thought this was interesting. FanRag Sports just listed, they did Derek Favors was like 88th, and 86 was Rodney Hood, and 85th is Seth Curry. Not Steph Curry, but Seth Curry. And it just jumped out to me, like, are we asking way too much out of Rodney Hood? I mean, Dennis Lindsay is out there saying that we think Rodney Hood can be an 18-point-a-game scorer. We're going to turn the offense over to him. We don't have a lot of other choices there. But then all of a sudden, when I suddenly see this guy put together this list, and he's doing it really interesting. It's Kelly Scalata who's doing it, and he's got the ceiling for each player on the floor. His ceiling is 73. Of our voters, he says, only one of our voters did not rank Hood at all, and the highest he was ranked was 68th. So is it, and for him to climb in the 70s is feasible, he says. He puts his ceiling at 73. And he points out two things I've talked about a lot. His true shooting percentage is just 53.3, which is right about league average, and he doesn't go to the free throw line at all. So he's going to have to go to the free throw line a great deal more if the Jazz are going to be successful with him as the primary scorer. But it did give me a little bit of caution here. Are we asking is that possible? I mean, I think that's a little low, but maybe not actually. You know, what are we asking out of Rodney Hood to be this year as our primary scorer without Gordon, and how much we kind of did this to Gordon 3-4 years ago, where we didn't think he was good enough and we were on him a little bit. I'm a little worried we're about to do the same thing to Rodney Hood. And it may be some of our optimism, which is which is great and largely predicated on the defense and the depth, which are two accurate things. And I'm gonna get to that in a second. Are correct for us to have that optimism, but this probably should open up a little bit of caution that, whoa, like our best offense, our second best player, I think, in this ranking is going to be 86. Now, I think Rudy should be top 10, top 15, particularly when you start putting together his defense. I think he's probably top 10. But our second best player in this top 100 ranking, and there'll be others all summer long, is 86th. Favors was 88th. That's a pretty big drop, right? And Worth just, I don't want to, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but it's just, let's keep an eye on it. And make sure we're not asking way too much out of a guy and putting pressure and getting frustrated with a guy who probably deserves a little bit more of a soft landing, shall we say, into this role. I mean, it's somewhat similar to what we did to Gordon, I think, in his fourth year, where in that team, and Gordon struggled with it. It took Gordon 2 or 3 years to be able to be good enough to handle that aspect of things. So that's the kind of first storyline today. As I mentioned, today's show is brought to you by the Shamrock Auto Group. I've gotten to know Rob Thomas. Oh, just kidding, Rob Taylor. It's a long joke if you're new to the show. And Rob has really explained to me what they're about, what they want to be. And the biggest thing is he got into this business because he had bad experiences in buying cars. And so he figured out that they could run a car dealership, which gets amazing Google reviews, great reviews at cars.com, and give people a super experience. The coolest thing for him is he now has 35% of his business from out of state. People who use the business when they're in Utah to get a car. Now they save so much money, they fly in and drive the vehicle home. In 10 years, he likes to believe he's never had a disappointed customer. And that is what Shamrock Auto Group is all about. Visit their website, shamrockautogroup.com. They're just off exit 275 in Pleasant Grove, and the number is 801-361-9796. So they do cars and trucks, low mileage cars and trucks. Brady Kimball's their general manager. Brady is a former mechanic, and so he is the one going in and getting those cars and knows exactly the circumstances and situations those cars are in. So he knows that, he was a technician for 25 years, and he's the buyer. So he knows he's getting you a good product. They're a lean company. They have fewer employees than everyone else, and they just make sure you have an easy, simple system, but they can take care of it. Test drives on yourself. Financing is there. No gimmicks along the way. You know what? Their Google reviews say it all, frankly. 80 years of combined automotive experience in this group of people, and they're going to make sure you have a super experience. So check it out. Shamrock Auto Group, if you're in the market to buy a car, low mileage car or truck, they're going to do it for you. And if you have something specific you want, tell Robert Brady what you want. 801-361-9796. That's 801-361-9796. Tell them Locked On Jazz sent you. You get oil changes for life for free. That's oil changes for life for free. Subtle things that great organizations do. Subtle things that great organizations do. One of them came public yesterday. The Joe Ingles contract is descending. So the Jazz are paying Joe the most amount of money this year. The hope, obviously, was to be signing Gordon with his going up. Rudy's is already going up. And so now with someone like Joe who's not maxing out, anytime you can get a non-max contract to descend, then when you pay the max contracts, you're in pretty good shape. The big story, we'll talk about this more in tomorrow's show with Exum and Hood and Favors and free agency and what's going on with the market. And I'll save a lot of that for tomorrow's show so I can get your questions today. But the big thing that's going on in the market is all these guys are getting 5 and 8% raises. The salary cap's going up 3%. That's it. The salary cap's going up about 3%, and everybody else going up. But so if you can get descending contracts, that's a really big deal of flexibility for the Jazz. There also is going to be very little market money in the market coming up. We'll talk about that and turn the page toward that probably tomorrow on the show. So that was number one that we saw with Joe Ingles, is a really super deal there by Dennis Lindsay, and it shows you a lot of what I think it shows you a lot of kind of the level of detail and understanding he's doing with his crew, and they have just a great front office. Number two is my understanding on Udo, Jerebko, and Cephalosha. They're all team options for next year. So the Jazz, depending on how they play, how these players develop, how all of this takes place, can either let these guys go to free agency or pick up their options for next year. And they're all team options. Different dates on all of them. And so, therefore, the dates change. They're not all like the late Boris Diaw situation. Some of them are July 1, so they'll have to decide before free agency. But frankly, in this day and age, you know a lot of that as a team. This is just the level of correct detail that Dennis Lindsey's going to be able to show, that shows you kind of where he is, what he's willing to do, and how he runs his franchise correctly. These are the little things. This is the experience that you have to have. One thing, so anyway, we'll get to your questions in a second, so keep submitting them. I wanted to bring up one just quick thought. We'll dig more into this as the show continues, as we go on. The Jazz last year did something that I thought we probably should bring up, and that is the Jazz last year had a record of 15-22 against plus 500 teams. So, and it's, the league is loaded. So there's 30, that's 37 of their games. But what they really did last year that was so awesome is their record was 36-9 against below 500 teams. If you have a good enough roster to beat below 500 teams, you can make the playoffs. Like, that's one that I haven't heard talked a lot about in regards to the Jazz upcoming season, is with the defense as good as hopefully it is, and hopefully the offense as egalitarian as it can be and not too much pressure on Rodney, the Jazz should be able to beat most of the below 500 teams. And if you do that, you can probably make the playoffs. The Jazz were 15-22 last year against above 500 teams. That's probably a realistic number for the Jazz in this upcoming season. Maybe, with our injuries, you're going to play the Warriors 3 or 4 times and struggle, and you're going to play the Spurs 3 or 4 times and hope to get one. You're going to play the Rockets 3 or 4 times and hope to get one. And then you're going to play the Clippers 4 times and hopefully split. And the Thunder 4 times and maybe a split. Maybe you hopefully get 3 out of 4 from the Grizzlies. You get 2-2 with Portland, or 3 out of 4 if they're above 500. Denver, you probably try to split. And all of a sudden, those above 500 teams, you got some wins in there. Boston, you hope to beat every damn time you play them. All right. So I think that's an aspect of things that probably we could just kind of keep an eye on a little bit more when you try to evaluate what the Jazz upcoming season is going to be. All right, let me get to some of the questions. Appreciate people participating, joining the show at our new location. I do think the Thursday Locked On Podcast Network stuff could be really, really cool. So I appreciate you guys supporting the switch over here. Have you listened to the Gordon Woj podcast yet, and do you plan to give your thoughts on what he said? I have not. I probably will at some point today. I've been working on the network stuff a lot, have podcasts running, been listening to network podcasts instead. Kind of feel like it's old news. I have 2 thoughts that I'll share on this. One, and I think this came out in the podcast from the comments I read. I read Ben Anderson's piece and some others. One is that I do think that there was a teeter-totter going on here for Gordon for his decision, and what we all did is put all the different things that we saw and all the different pieces and put them on the teeter-totter, and I actually just think he had one item on the teeter-totter. I think his legacy, his chance to win, his recognition, his publicity was the item on the teeter-totter. And that swung it. And I think when the schedule comes out in the middle of August and he has, 14 national TV games compared to 2, it's not a crazy decision. I think that's an important note, and I haven't figured out how to phrase this correctly yet. Gordon's decision to go to Boston is not crazy. It's not... I think I would have liked him to stay. It doesn't help us as a franchise that he left. I don't think it's it's not a slap in the face to the Jazz. It shouldn't be something where people look at the Jazz and say, "Oh, this is a big step back for Utah's place in the NBA world. It's a step back because they had their best player or one of their two best players leave. Probably best player. Okay, whatever. Who cares? I just don't want to sound like I'm degrading him after he left. I think it's a reasonable decision. It's a reasonable concept. And because it's a reasonable concept, I think as the league and fans, we have to look at it a little bit that way too. Like, oh, it actually makes some sense. Like going to Boston, playing in an easier conference, going to be an all-star for probably all 5 years he's there, or 7, 8, 9 years he's there. A huge amount of national recognition. He'll be a huge story next year. He might have just wanted to change. I've always thought the incumbent had a tough time in these circumstances. And so when you look at those items, I don't know if this is coming across clearly, it's not like he did something insane or, oh my gosh, Utah must suck or anything like that. It's a reasonable decision. I mean, if I'm sitting down with Gordon, I would say I'm bummed, but I'd get it. Like, I get it. Like, I'm not sure. There's some aspects that I think he's missing a little bit on how much he had this locker room being his way compared to what he's about to enter. And maybe he thinks Brad will just straighten that out, or maybe he doesn't care. I mean, it's not like he's not this overly gregarious social guy, but I think he missed that a little bit. I think he missed a little bit on just, I go to that Washington game when he had the play and it was his and he hit the shot and it's his time. And maybe Isaiah Thomas will be gone in a year anyway. So I think he missed a little bit on those two items and how valuable that is to him. But maybe not. Maybe he thought about all those things and then still the other stuff on the teeter-totter, that one item of his personal legacy, his spot, his this, was more important to him because he is going to be a higher, let's just be honest about this, by being in Boston and being in the East where they don't have any stars right now other than John Wall and LeBron James, he's going to be much higher profile. The league has to sell him as a bigger star than he actually is to make the Eastern Conference interesting. And he's going to get that, and he's going to get sold like that. And so he's going to be the story. He's the biggest free agent that moved teams. Like, it's a story every time. He and Paul George and Chris Paul are going to be the big stories early in the season. How are they assimilating? He gets all of those things. And so I just don't think it was an insane, crazy, ridiculous decision, and I don't think it was a slight at Utah either, if I made that at all clear. Today's show is brought to you by SeatGeek, the number one place for you to go get tickets to any of your upcoming events. And here's the cool one, new promo code, LONBA. Use that promo code. Once you've downloaded SeatGeek, put it in the settings tab, you get $20 back on your first purchase. Why SeatGeek? Why? Because it's making the ticket buying purchase to concerts, to games, to events much, much easier than it used to be. I used to have a guy downtown. I'd go into a hotel and go into his little office, and I had to just trust that he gave me the best price and had the best tickets. And I don't know if I ever did, but now I've got SeatGeek that's compiling all of the tickets that are in the marketplace in one place for me. I can compare those with the SeatGeek ticket score mechanism that allows me to be able to look at it and say, oh, okay, this is got a better ticket score. Particularly if you're traveling and you're going to a venue you've never been to before, it's really terrific. If you want to go see a U2 or something, and you've never been there, and you're traveling to the location, then you suddenly have the ability to look at the ticket score and know that that's your best offer that you could possibly get. So I would say go right now. You'll find out that this is the way to buy tickets forever. You get it? The SeatGeek app, download it, go to the settings tab, enter in LONBA. Then when you have your first event you want to go to, you can set up a price alert. I've done that for a few events recently. And then when it's done, it's secured and it's set and it's on your phone and it's guaranteed. That is the SeatGeek app, promo code LONBA. Let's get to more of your questions. Do you have an insider knowledge on what the new Nike jerseys will look like? I do not. Those are the kind of things that actually would get me fired if I did. Pace of play. Stats say yes, but playing the game for a lot of years, players prefer a faster pace of play. Stats can't measure desire to play, which it comes with a faster pace of play. I think that's true, but I also don't think most players want to run. I think they all say they want to, but playing at a faster pace of play is really, really hard. And so, one reason many people thought the Jazz didn't play pace of play is, frankly, Gordon's conserving some energy, right? Like, is he really going to – James Harden isn't D'Antoni and Houston aren't playing fast because James Harden's conserving some energy. The burden that you're asking them, Gordon had like the highest workload of any player in the NBA last year. That wasn't a slight. That was like James Harden was number 2. Those are the highest workload players. They're not going to run. So I got the faster pace of play. I got the easier shots. I do think that there's something to that's overblown a little bit. What is the top 100 ranking? FanRag Sports, Kelly Scalata has done it. His is unique, but I think that's great. I like people that are unique. Groupthink bores the heck out of me. You're forgetting Rubio. He's probably our second best player than Hood and Faves. Maybe. I wasn't forgetting Rubio. I'll be curious to see if Rubio's ranked in the top 100. That shooting percentage has a lot of people down on him. Maybe. Yeah, you're probably right. He'll probably be ranked in the top 100. When I was doing it, I did not think he was going to be ranked in the top 100, but you're probably right. Off the top of your head, what do you think the rotation will look like with the new additions? Will Faves still play backup 5 minutes, or will he be exclusively play at the 4? I think to start, I think we'll watch Derek's minutes a little bit, try to keep him healthy. I think you'll probably start Rubio, Hood, Ingles, Favors, Gobert. Your first substitution is probably some version of Joe Johnson. There's great flexibility here. I think you'll have Jerebko playing some 5 at times, the way Boris Diaw did last year, and spread the floor. He's a very good above-the-break three-point shooter. Cephalosha will split time with Ingles, maybe even 24 minutes a night each. I just think that's, as much as I like Joe, playing him 30 minutes a night, I'm not sure is a way to maintain him for 82 games. I think Donovan Mitchell could force himself into 30 minutes a night. And I think that'll get interesting to see where those come from. I think he could be that good. And then you have Dante and Mitchell, I think, maybe playing with that spread floor, playing a faster pace in that period of time. That Jerebko plays some of that 5 favors, can play it too. But you might just spread it out during that period and let Mitchell and Exum just drive lanes. And if AB's back, let him do that as well. There's a lot of options in this. Udo hasn't even been mentioned yet, who could play backup 5. Favors doesn't like to play center, and so maybe he just doesn't. Maybe you just let him play power forward. And he plays 24 minutes a night as your power forward, and you keep him healthy, and he plays those minutes. But he's going to have to play center if he wants to have a free agency market. Thank you, Jeff. That was very nice of you. I love this. It tells me I should thank David Locke for sharing this video. Okay, thank you, me. Self-promotion. What do you think of this importance of reacquiring Zanuck? I actually have that for tomorrow's show. The addition of Zanuck and Morway, I think, is really good. I was going to talk about that on tomorrow's show. Quite honestly, there's not a lot of news right now. I got to space shows together. I'm doing a show tomorrow also. I got to make sure I have enough for each day. So if you don't mind, I'm going to talk about that. But just big picture, it's great down back. Justin's a good friend of mine, frankly. We talked a lot during the season just to try to stay in touch. I've known David Morway for 25 years now, and he is a fabulous guy and really bright, great experience, been in both good and bad front offices, and brings and really was getting out of the business until Dennis Lindsay called, and then the Jazz are such a model organization that he wanted to be a part of it. To take advantage of our depth, do you see Quinn using a 10 or 11-man rotation, especially if Mitchell and Burks start to demand minutes? If Burks comes back, we suddenly are we actually have now 12 guys, right? And Neto can play. We're not even counting him. But, right, you have the guards. You have 4 right now that can play. Someone just sent me a smile, was going through a really crappy time, and the fact that she just took the time to send that to me, you're the best. I hope you saw that smile. So we have Exum, Mitchell with Hood, and Rubio as our 4, and then AB's the 5th guy there. If AB suddenly is able to play, that's really deep. And your 3s are Ingles and Cephalosha. That's not very deep, but you probably can slide someone down if we need to. But that's a little thin right there. Maybe AB can play some of that. If somebody gets hurt in there, we get a little thin. Joe Johnson can slide in there if we need it, so we get a little less than him. This is the versatility of this roster that's really kind of cool. You have Favors and Gobert. Your centers are Gobert, Favors, Udo. Tony Bradley's good. Bradley can play. I don't know if he's going to play this year, but he can play. Your power forwards are Favors, Jerebko, Joe Johnson. It's pretty good. Am I missing anyone there? So I think it's, and I think I still think there's some stuff going on. I think Bowling Boy's going to have to play to make the team. I mean, I think, and I don't mean that as a shot on Joel. I just think this franchise is willing to eat $800,000 if they have a better player. So, I mean, I think there's going to be some training camp battles. Tim McMahon has an article called Nuclear Winter with Free Agents because of last year's spending might hurt 18, and Favors and Hood are listed. Thoughts on what they could get. And Exum. Favors, Hood, and Exum are all free agents in the market. I was going to do that tomorrow. And I apologize. You guys could program this show. And I hate to keep saying tomorrow, but if I do it today, I don't have anything tomorrow. There's nothing new that's going to happen between today and tomorrow. So I hope you respect that. I hate that I'm doing that down your questions. But Rick, I apologize. Udo will surprise a lot of people. He can play backup minutes for Rudy. He can stay on the floor with Rudy. He's a 4. He's not a stretch, but he's a blocking machine. I think that may be true. I don't know a lot, honestly. I'm kind of just being the hometown optimist. I know who he was out of college. I didn't love him out of college. I'm not surprised that he struggled. But I think the game has evolved in a way that actually helps him. You know, in that age, he was going to struggle because he didn't have a post game. He didn't have an offensive game. We don't actually want that out of that guy anymore. Now we want a guy who just rim rolls, and I think you're right. I think he will be good. The question is going to be how he moves on pick and rolls defensively and whether he can switch 1 through 5, and that'll be the real item to tell as the year goes on. But again, great depth. And to the point I had earlier, you have this much depth, you beat bad teams with this depth. When you can always put out 240 minutes, and even guys get hurt, you put out 240 minutes, then you end up winning these games against not very good teams like the Jazz were last year when they were 36-9, and that gets you into the postseason. We make the playoffs, Quinn deserves Coach of the Year. But I hate that. Quinn deserved Coach of the Year last year. Just we make the playoffs, it's a great step. Why is it so hard for people to comprehend the impact of a dunker like Rudy? People say he isn't good offensively. He's a top 10 offensive player. Why can't people understand that? I don't know, but I've been fighting this battle for like 3 years. DeAndre Jordan is too. I mean, I think the Clippers are going to be interesting because DeAndre Jordan is still so good offensively that from a pack standpoint, he'll be good. I'm working on a ton of Locked On Podcast Network projects, but I will be trying to put together a projected pack here pretty soon. Were you a part of my summer league? Have any summer league practice inside the skill level Donovan Mitchell displayed? He was dramatically better than everybody else on the floor in every practice. His skill level is incredible. There's a lot of optimism about Donovan. I mean, I can't say anything more than saying I think he's going to play 30 minutes a night. Like, that's a huge statement. Like, I don't, like, last year's draft class sucked. So I'm not sure that it's a good reference, but I'm not sure that anybody played 30 minutes a night in the draft class last year. So it might be, and that might be a stupid comment by me. The more I say it, I think it might be absurd. Because I don't think, maybe nobody plays. Brandon Ingram played 29 minutes a night. Malcolm Brogdon played 26. Buddy Hield played 23. Isaiah Whitehead played 23 on a team not trying to win. Chris LeVert played 22 on a team not trying to win. Jamal Murray played 22. Marquise Chris played 21. And Sabonis played 20. Those are the only guys over 20 minutes. Maybe I should change it and say, I think Mitchell's going to play over 25 minutes a night. You know, if you go look at the 2015 draft class, which was a pretty darn good class, you have Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, and Kristaps Porzingis is the only guys averaging over 30 minutes. All right, 30 minutes for Mitchell might be too high. Let's go with 25. I might have been overzealous. Where do you get your advanced stats? I have a theory I want to research myself. Well, one, I have an NBA access to every piece of data they have, and I can build my own spreadsheets. So I create a lot of my own, like pack and things like that are done off a spreadsheet. And then a lot of them are other just websites that are out there that I think you have access to. So I don't really, Basketball Reference has great basic stuff, and NBA.com is really super. They've done amazing work on that. I don't go to many places other than those. There's a few others. NBA Minor has some interesting things. There's NBAstuffer.com has ref stats I use. NBA Wowie has some on-off stuff, but frankly, the NBA has done that pretty well. NBASavant.com used to have some cool stuff. I'm looking at my list right here. Vorped used to have cool stuff. I haven't been there in a long time. TeamRankings.com has some cool stuff. There, that's about the best I can give you. How long do you think it'll take for an Eastern Conference and Western Conference to become more balanced? It hasn't happened in like 20 years. But I will tell you, I was at the NBA meetings, and I tried to push on the idea of breaking it up, and they just didn't. They don't believe. Their analytics show it's one team a year that's getting knocked out of the playoffs, and I think they see it as immaterial. And I think they see the one team a year that's getting knocked out, if you went to the top 16 teams, being not worth it compared to the amount of travel that you have to have otherwise. The amount of travel they see as a bigger issue in time. Wow, when we're doing the Locked On, I'd have to end the show right now. I'm at 30 minutes because in the Locked On Podcast Network, when we start trying to get you Thursday live days, we only have 30-minute windows for each show. We're just rolling here today. Thank you very much to Shauna and Jason Anderson who shared the video. Appreciate it. More from Cody. Is the St. Van Hayward being overhyped to make it to East look better? Do you think players like IT get more recognition than they deserve? Yes, I do. I think some of the Eastern Conference players, but IT was pretty good last year. Robert May is being very nice. Ken, are we overhyping Hayward's ability as a basketball player considering the attention and patience he was given in the development? No, he's really good. He worked his ass off. He did it. He deserves the credit. Our organization allowed it to happen, but he deserves the credit. Colby points out, Gordon forever is tarnished by the bullcrap that they did to make sure that they got their Players Tribune article out. I mean, that was just – my sources told me at 12 o'clock that decision was done too. Like, I turned off my phone and went and played golf. I will forever – I got great sources. They can forever tell me his decision wasn't made and that it just was coincidentally released in Players. I will never believe that, and I – have been told from people, I don't have this for a fact, but I'm curious to know whether he gets paid by Players Tribune so that they actually have a exclusive. No, he jacked that up so badly that it will forever tarnish him. And that for a guy I've known a long time and that's too bad. I feel really bad for him. But he is tarnished, and it has a great agent. I mean, it's a surprise that group screwed that up so badly. But there's no question that failure to execute it correctly was unconscionable and will forever tarnish him. We probably should get over it, let him have his mistake, but he blew it. It's probably, other than LeBron and maybe DeAndre Jordan, the worst handled free agency ever. That's bad. I get his decision, but if the players are not loyal to teams not wanting to win, where you are is being replaced, but I find the easiest road is a little hard to support. Yeah, I mean, honestly, teams aren't that loyal to players either, right? I don't think we would have, but if New York had offered the third pick for Kristaps Porzingis, maybe we would have traded Gordon. Right? Maybe. I mean, I think actually that's what New York wanted and we said no, but I mean, teams, the loyalty argument, it's to us as fans, not to teams. It's to us as fans that's hard. But maybe you should just be loyal to me and Craig Bolerjack because we're not going anywhere, and we love you. How's that? If the Jazz keep Favors, do they make him extend his shooting out to the three-point line so he can be a modern forward, or do they trade him? I think they're going to try to extend him, see how he feels. He'd done a nice job with it last year. He's clearly got to burr up his saddle, and he's working his off right now. And you can see it, or he's putting up a good picture on Instagram and Facebook. He's putting it out there every day, and it's really working. Dennis Lindsay points out that he's healthier. He was never healthy at any point last year in his preparations to the season, and he's healthy now so that he should be. I mean, this guy 2 years ago was really good. And 2 years ago, March, I don't think I have it on this computer easily. I just switched computers. If anybody's a computer smart person and can help me, I have a brand new computer, and for some reason, whenever I open up my editing program for audio, it means my videos won't run and audio won't run, which means I can't record podcast interviews right now. If anyone understands that and can explain it to me, email me at dlock09@gmail.com. Crowdsourcing, dlock09@gmail.com. I think he'll stretch out, and I do think, let's be honest, I think there's a chance Favors still gets traded at some point in time here. Every day it seems less likely, just with him a free agent at the end of the year, but the mix isn't where, the mix is unique at this point with Rudy. How hard is it to transition from a 2-foot jumper to a 1-foot jumper? It's hard. It doesn't happen, and it's the one. There's two things on Donovan Mitchell that give me pause. One, he's a 2-foot jumper, and two, he's short. He's long, but you just start trying to find 6'3" shooting guards that have been as good as people think he's going to be, and you're talking about Avery Bradley or Dwayne Wade. Avery Bradley's really, really good, but he's not as good as I think a lot of people want to say Donovan Mitchell is. And when I've brought up Avery Bradley to people who know, they say Donovan's much more skilled. And Dwayne Wade's a Hall of Famer, and I hate Hall of Famer comps. So I think you have to be a little careful. Those are the two things that concern me on Donovan Mitchell, is the 2-foot jumping and the height. And I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just trying to make sure we don't think he's a Hall of Famer before it starts. Let's look. Rick will do that tomorrow, as I said. I have not been able to see the construction at Vivint Smart Home Arena. Maybe Steve Starks or Jim Olsen or someone will give me a tour, but I have not seen it yet. That's a good idea. I should ask for that for a podcast coming up. I will do that when we're done with the show. I'll text down to them and see if they want to. Someone wants to give me a tour. Who do you think the top 3 players on our current roster are? See, I think this is what's really exciting. I don't know. And this is what I think the 4 guards are really, really, really exciting to see. Because I don't know about on Rubio, Exum, Hood, and Mitchell are all. I'm going to know a million times more about all of them at the end of this season. Rubio, it's strange for me to say I don't know who he is, but he's 25 years old. He's been on the same team. It's been a jacked-up organization. He's had a million coaches. He and his last coach didn't get along. His coach before that sucked. His coach before that, I think, was pretty good, but was in a weird system for a point guard. And so and then he was always labeled as the guy they took instead of Steph, and he was and it was just a mess. So I don't think I know who he is yet, and I'm excited to let him just play and see him in person. And then Exum has his first basketball offseason, and Hood, if he can get stronger than league average, might be a totally different player. And Donovan Mitchell is exciting. So those 4 players are just guys, I don't have any idea who they are. And if they can take a jump, then we're a lot better than we think. And so to answer your question of who the top 3 players are, Gobert's number 1. Favors healthy, maybe number 2. And then I just don't know. I mean, is Donovan Mitchell going to turn out to be better than Rodney Hood? Maybe. I think that's an incredible leap. And an insane comment. I kind of paused and took a drink of water to let you think about it, but maybe. And maybe Rubio's the 3rd best player. Or maybe Rubio's lack of shooting really does hurt him. Could Favors take 2 threes a game? Yeah, I mean, sure. Robert May likes the 30 minutes a game of Mitchell, which I've now since backed off to 25. Do you ever comb your hair? This is actually about as good as it gets. What do you think about I actually wetted my hair before the show today because I did it so late. What do you think about the Jazz reaching out to Rashard Lewis? He has played well in the Big 3. That's interesting. I know Rashard really well. Or Ra, as many people call him. I don't know. I love Rashard. That'd be fun. He made a lot of money. I don't know if he needs to, but is Donovan Mitchell a Lillard-type player, scoring guard, or Joe Dumars type? 2 great comparisons. I don't think we know. Is he a unicorn 1-2, or is he an undersized 2? Great question. Don't know. Oh. Can we just can we get stupid excited about this idea? Damian Lillard's rookie year, he played 38.6 minutes a game. He's incredible. I don't know how he did that. Wow. They win any games that year? Don't think so. No, they lost their last 20 in a row to close the season. So no. So that's why he played 38.6 minutes. Wow, that's a lot. Good for Lillard. Will Favors be a starting power forward? I would think so. Do I see any of our assistant coaches eventually earning head coaching gigs sometimes? You know, Alex Jensen looked really, really comfortable running that summer league team in Utah this year. I thought more comfortable than I've ever seen him running practices. He's got great background experience as a D-League head coach. He's just growing up. He's got a kid, another one on the way. Watching him mature, I think he'll be a good NBA head coach. Antonio Lang's a special dude. I would want him on my staff every single day. Zach Guthrie's a great up-and-comer. I'm going to forget people here. There's so many coaches. Mike Wells has been around for a long, long time. Is invaluable as a coach. Jeff Watkinson has got an incredible collection of mix of talent of players. I don't know if he ever becomes a head coach, but his knowledge of strength and conditioning coupled with is really, really, really special. Who am I forgetting of our coaches? Johnny Bryant. I mean, that's an up-and-comer. Lamar Skier's a great dude. Johnny Bryant's a huge up-and-comer with his workout, but also his tenacity and his communication with players. Yeah, I mean, I think the staff is great, and I think these guys have I think there's a lot of guys. We've got, and our new D-League coach is interesting. He's a former German coach. I don't know anything about him, but it's just an interesting kind of the background he has. Who else am I? I'm probably forgetting somebody. Gosh, I'm scared to. Igor Kokoskov. Well, Igor should be a head coach. I mean, Igor right now is in Europe. He's like Igor and I go to coffee every single day, and I just forgot him. That's probably why I forgot him. Igor is right now. He's the Serbian, I think, head coach for the national team. He's been the Georgia head coach. If Quinn gets ejected, he's probably the one who steps in. He was with Detroit. I actually thought that if Joe Dumars took over New Orleans and Alvin Gentry got fired, that Igor would be the new head coach there. There's a language barrier that he's fought through and he's become better, but he's probably the top rung of all the coaches there. So I think I've hit him. I hope I haven't forgotten anybody. But I mean, this is a really talented staff in very many different ways. Igor is got that national coaching team. Alex has got national coaching team experience. Johnny's just incredible. Zach is so bright and such a basketball junkie, and Antonio is just seriously one of the best people I've ever met in my life. I'd want him on every single staff, company, anything I ever had with him. Lamar is really bright, basketball junkie, rising up through. It's gonna have to probably he's gonna have to get a unique chance. He's got a tougher road than some others with no NBA background. So he's gonna, some of these roads are harder for some guys than others, but Lamar's played Division III, really bright. Lamar actually fits to me just as a thought. I don't know if this will be what he ends up doing, but if you look at the best coaches in college recently, Shaka Smart, Brad Stevens, they are these Division IIIs, really, really bright basketball guys who love the game, who go to these small colleges, and then they take that kind of business knowledge and Lamar's got, I think, a master's in business management. Lamar is a guy that I think actually could run a college program at a really elite level with his player development, his video knowledge. It's an interesting angle there. So it's an uncomfortable conversation for me because I feel like I don't want to underserve anyone. I know these guys really well. They're the people who have most common with me. They're very, very good to me. Very good to me. I'm probably a pain in their ass. So these are really talented people. Maybe I'll do some sit-down interviews and let you guys get to know them this year. That'd be fun. Maybe I'll do that in September with these guys. Wow, we're at like 40 minutes, guys. So really, it's the off season. What is the possibility we see a good Favors again? Do you see the reason for optimism, or are these trade talks a good thing? I don't know. Hopefully. I think, if he's healthy, he's still a really good player, really talented. I think he's learned over the years what hard work is, and he's getting better at it. Are the Jazz and let me clarify that comment. When you're 6'10" and one of the top 0.001% athletes in the world, you don't have to work hard. And so I think sometimes it's hard for these guys to understand exactly what it means to work that hard. Does that make sense? I have a call. Oh, but that call's not for a few minutes. Are the Jazz in good shape offensively if Favors gets back to scoring 16 a game? And does that give them a number one primary scoring? I don't think Favors can be a number one scoring guy in this offense. I think you have to be egalitarian. If you're going to be doing that, I think that would help them, Justin. But I think that the key to them is how many threes they can get off. I really do. I don't know. I haven't talked to Quinn about what he's going to do with his offense. I think there'll be a lot of cutters because I think there's a lot of belief that Ricky can find the cutters for backdoor cuts and create things. I think Cephalosha will play about 24 minutes a night, be a really solid pro, plays the game right every night. I think he will hit a decent amount of 35% of his threes as an average three-point shooter, defend, and he and Joe Ingles will just be totally solid at that small forward and nothing elegant. Can you introduce me to Joe Ingles? Thank you, Matt. I was worried you weren't here. If the Cavaliers trade Kyrie, would Love then become unavailable? I would think so. I don't know what the Cavaliers are doing, and I don't know if they do. Kobe Altman's really smart, though. I know Kobe a little bit. He's really bright and really smart. I have put some simple data together on good defensive teams that play with pace. You probably have the Jerry Sloan, Darren Williams teams in there. They were one of the few teams that was good defensively and high pace of play team. But send it to me, Braxton. I'd love it. dlock09@gmail.com. Does Joe Johnson become our baseball-like closer? I think that's a fair assessment. We got to watch his minutes. I don't know how far Derek Favors is from 100%. Maybe a lot of Derek questions. Maybe I should text Derek and say hi to him. Like you, I'm not sold on Kevin Love, but does the simple fact that he has 2 years left and the fact that Favors has so many questions, health, free agency, fit? Yeah, I think so. I like Kevin Love. I like Derek and I like Kevin Love both. So, so I think. I just can't totally figure out Kevin Love. And actually, what I really can't figure out is why we're totally shutting the door on Favors and Gobert and just being an insane defensive team. And sure, we scuffle to score, but just being an insane defensive team. Final question, why has everyone flipped 180 degrees? We were last year coming to the Warriors. Now we are the Moneyball team. No, I'm the only one. Not everyone. I'm the only one. I just wrote a counterintuitive piece about slow pace, Brandon. Nobody else is with me. Zach and Kevin Pelton and those guys think I'm insane. I'm sure of it. They'd be nice enough not to say it, but you didn't see him retweeting it. What I think's interesting, what jumped out to me last year is all the teams that tried to emulate the Warriors looked ridiculous trying to do it. And so the Warriors are just so good that I think it's too hard for them to emulate. And so I'm looking at a different style of play. And I actually think that might be the Moneyball answer. But I'm the only one who thinks that. I'm just being a counterintuitive thinker. I don't like groupthink. And I thought I could prove it. All right. Thank you guys very much. That was fun. Long edition today. Keep an eye. Please like the Locked On Podcast Network page. Share these videos. And we should be having really fun Locked On Podcast Network host live streams coming to you all Thursdays on Locked On Podcast Network. Hopefully going to be really cool with just a bunch of live shows, one after another after another. Have a great one. Talk to you soon. And today's show was brought to you by Shamrock Auto Group and SeatGeek. Make sure you go to shamrockautogroup.com and support Rob and the group there and get that experience. And then as well, make sure that you SeatGeek, promo code LONBA. Have a great one.